The silence in the house was louder than the weeping had been. When Josh's wife took her last breath, succumbing to the cancer that had ravaged her body, a part of Josh died with her. At the funeral, amidst the sea of black coats and tearful condolences, Josh made a quiet, solemn vow. He looked toward the heavens and whispered, "Lord, I will not take another wife unless you show me exactly who she is. I will wait for your hand." Josh was 40 years old then. He was a handsome man, strong and devout, and many assumed his grief would pass within a year or two. But years turned into seasons, and seasons into decades. 5 years passed. Then 10. Then 15. Josh remained alone. He kept his house tidy, his Bible worn, and his heart guarded. The community, initially sympathetic, began to whisper. They saw a man in his prime wasting away in solitude. "He's waiting for an angel that doesn't exist," the neighbors would say over their fences. "He's too picky. He wants perfection." Temptation came, as it always does. Women, drawn by his faithfulness and his quiet strength, tried to sway him. Some were subtle, others were brazen, attempting to lure him into bed, mocking his celibacy. "You're a man, Josh," they would tease. "You have needs." But Josh would gently remove their hands from his arm and step back. "I am waiting for the wife from God," he would say simply. By the time 20 years had passed, the gossip had turned malicious. "He must be demon-possessed," some speculated in the market. "How can a man stay single for so long without a woman? It's unnatural." Josh heard them, but he did not care. His validation came from the altar, not the street corner. He continued to serve in his church, his knees calloused from prayer, his faith unshaken. It was during the 21st year of his solitude that the silence of God was finally broken. One night, God visited him in a dream. The voice was like rushing water, yet comforting. "Josh," the Lord said, "you shall marry a godly woman who will love you unconditionally." Josh woke up with tears in his eyes. He wrote the promise down in his journal, but he remained confused. Who was she? Where was she? A year passed. Doubt tried to creep in, but Josh held on. Then, another dream came. The angel of the Lord stood at the foot of his bed, radiant and tall. "Josh, your wife's name is Terry." Josh woke up startled, his heart pounding. "Terry," he whispered into the darkness, testing the weight of the name on his tongue. 6 months later, the vision returned. The angel spoke again, precise and authoritative, "Your wife shall be 11 years younger than you." Josh did the math in his head. He was aging, but God was specific. He waited. Another 6 months passed. The final piece of the puzzle was delivered in a dream that felt more real than his waking life. "Your wife's hometown is called Rusa." Josh now had the map, but he still didn't have the destination. He was 60 years old. His hair was gray, and his movements were slower, though his spirit remained youthful. One Saturday, a persistent friend invited Josh to a garden party. Josh usually declined such social gatherings, preferring the quiet of his study, but something in his spirit urged him to go. The party was lively, filled with music and laughter that Josh felt detached from, until he saw her. She was standing near the punch bowl, laughing softly at a joke. She wasn't the youngest woman there, nor the loudest, but when Josh looked at her, the world seemed to tilt on its axis. It was instantaneous, a recognition of the soul. Love at first sight. Gathering his courage, Josh approached her. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice trembling slightly. She turned, her eyes warm and kind. "Hello." They began to talk. It started with small talk, the weather, the host, the food, but quickly deepened. There was a peace about her that mirrored his own. "I haven't seen you around here before," Josh said. "Are you from the city?" "I moved here recently," she smiled. "But my roots are further away. A small town you've probably never heard of." Josh felt a prickle of electricity at the back of his neck. "Try me." "It's called Rusa," she said. Josh's breath hitched. He steadied himself on the table. "Rusa," he repeated. "And, forgive me for being forward, but may I ask your name?" "I'm Terry," she said, extending her hand. Josh took her hand, and it felt like coming home. He looked at her, doing the mental calculation. She looked to be in her late 40s. Terry, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? She laughed, a melodious sound. A lady never tells, but for you. I'm 49. Josh was 60. She was exactly 11 years younger than him. The prophecy was complete. Name, Terry. Age difference, 11 years. Hometown, Rusa. It was as if they had known each other for 1,000 years. They talked until the sun went down and the other guests had left. They laughed about the years they had spent waiting, realizing that God was preparing them for one another all along. 6 months later, Josh stood before his family and the few friends who had stood by him. His face was glowing with a joy that erased 20 years of loneliness. I am getting married, he announced, his voice ringing with triumph. I have found the one God promised. They were married in a private garden, surrounded by blooming lilies and the soft hum of bees. When Josh kissed his bride, there was not a dry eye in the gathering. The gossipers were silenced, and the faithful were encouraged. Josh held Terry's hands, looking into the eyes of the gift he had waited 2 decades for. He smiled, knowing that his patience had purchased a treasure. He had found the bone of his bones and the flesh of his flesh, exactly according to the will of God. And in his heart, Josh knew the truth that would guide him for the rest of his days: God's voice will never lead you astray. Choosing a life partner in alignment with God's will is critical because marriage is not merely a social contract but a sacred covenant designed to reflect the relationship between Christ and the Church, Ephesians 5 verse 32. When God guides the choice, the relationship is built on a foundation that can withstand life's inevitable challenges and fully achieve its divine purpose. 1. Harmony and shared purpose. When both partners are committed to God's will, they share the same ultimate purpose: to glorify God and advance His kingdom. This creates a powerful unity and eliminates the deepest potential conflicts over life goals, finances, and raising children. A marriage within God's will ensures that the couple is equally yoked, meaning they're pulling in the same direction, making the journey of life more productive and harmonious. 2. Spiritual protection and growth. A partner chosen according to God's standards will possess godly character, prudence, kindness, faith, self-control, which is necessary for a healthy marriage. They will sharpen and encourage you spiritually, acting as a true helper on the path to becoming more Christ-like, Proverbs 27 verse 17. This alignment invites God's blessing and protection over the union. 3. Peace and assurance. The process of seeking God's will, through prayer, scripture, godly counsel, and testing for inner peace, brings a deep assurance that transcends mere emotion or physical attraction. This conviction provides the couple with a steady anchor during times of trial, giving them confidence that they are exactly where God intends them to be. What happens when we do not listen to the voice of God? When we rely solely on our own desires, emotions, or worldly standards, and choose a partner outside of God's revealed will, the consequences can be significant and far-reaching, often affecting not just the couple but their families and spiritual lives.